Hey, welcome back to Let's Talk. I'm your host, John, and today here on the channel, it's my monthly video where I rank everything I saw in the month of January from worst to first. But before we get into that, I'm just going to address the elephant in the room. Why is my camera angle changed? Well, the regular camera that I usually shoot on, well, it finally crapped out on me. So unfortunately, we're not going to be having the usual background that we have here on the channel. So if you like those usual wallpapers with my LG C1 and my computer, well, I'm going to start using the webcam now. So this will be like the background going forward. I am going to make it a little bit neater. Like Batman's in the background right now, but I bought some new shelves that'll go kind of right where the window is. So we'll make this look a little bit nicer. But overall, I hope it still looks good. You guys, you can see the movies now. And maybe it'll be something a little bit different. You guys will adjust to it. I was a little bit worried about it. So let me know what you think. Like I said, I'll spice it up a little bit more as we go on. But for now, this is the route we're going to go. So I like to do this every single month where I take all the movies I saw, whether they're new movies, movies I'm watching for the first time, movies I've seen a million times.
Some of you I know, some of you I'm meeting for the first time.
And I like to put them against each other and rank them from worst to first. So we're going to start right there at the bottom. I believe I got 41 movies this month. So yeah, I know that's a lot. And at the very bottom, we got Bigfoot versus DB Cooper. And this was a channel director review for Kevin Kruger. And this right now would be currently, maybe it's running against the Serbian film as the worst movie that I have ever seen. This movie has no redeeming qualities other than it exists and needs to be seen just so we can communicate about how this movie came to be. Because my God, for the most part, it's just guys walking around with their shirts off. They were like flipping their guns around, looking at themselves in the mirror. But that's really it. If you're waiting for that big build up to a fight between DB Cooper and Bigfoot, you get it, but probably in the worst case scenario kind of way. Next up, I got Freddy versus Jason. David and I were doing the entire Friday the 13th franchise on Axis Cinema Appreciation over on the other YouTube channel. Subscribe now. And I wanted to rewatch some of the Friday the 13th films, and the only one I actually got around to rewatching was one that I haven't seen in a couple of years, and that was Freddy versus Jason. And this movie, it just does not hold up. And I used to love this movie. I had this poster on my wall for a very long time, but I don't think it's aged that gracefully, and I didn't enjoy it as much as I used to. Next up, I got Dead Presidents, and I enjoyed this movie, but there are some flaws in it. I mean, again, I saw a lot of movies this month, and I wouldn't say I saw any bad movies other than DB Cooper versus Bigfoot and, of course, Freddy versus Jason. Those are the only two movies I'd say that I didn't really enjoy. I still enjoyed sitting down for Dead Presidents, but it's definitely a flawed film, and I didn't enjoy it as I had in the past, and I do have some issues with it. Next up, The Surrender, and this is another channel director review for my buddy Frank from Frank's Media and Reviews, and this is a very good movie. I might have not loved it, but it's still a very good, well-made movie. It's got some horrific body horror stuff in there, and it's really dealing with grief and like almost the exact moment when somebody passed away and how you react in that moment. And I really appreciated those scenes. Again, maybe not a perfect film, but one I enjoyed. But again, you see it's a little bit lower in the list, so maybe not one I necessarily loved. Next up, The Rip. And if you guys saw this movie, it was on Netflix. It stars Matt Damon and Ben Affleck. And I thought this was good. Now, if I would have saw this in theaters and paid a little bit more money for it, I would have been a little bit more harder on it because it does still feel like a Netflix film, but the cast is stacked. Also featuring other great actors like Steven Yeun, and Tiana Taylor pops up very wasted in this movie, but she still pops up in this movie collecting a paycheck, which is good because she deserves a paycheck. She gave a great performance in one battle after another. It just feels like, you could have put anyone in that role and you kind of wasted it on Tiana Taylor. I would have liked to see more of her in this movie and maybe flesh that character out, but they didn't probably have the time, and not everyone's going to get all the screen time. So I understand what happened. I just would have liked a little bit more. Next up, The Addiction, and I actually grabbed that 4K Blu-ray right here. I bought this because it was pretty cheap on Amazon, and I wanted to grab it and add it to my Abel Ferrara collection. And this is one I had never seen before. The 4K Blu-ray is gorgeous, shot in some of the best black and white that you'll ever see. The only thing with the film is I feel like it's a little bit uneven. It's a vampire film. Obviously, it's an allegory for addiction to drugs. They need the blood. And Christopher Walken steals the show for me in this movie. And, he's not in it much, but when he is in it, he is fantastic. Just showing you Christopher Walken's a fantastic actor. Next up, Rocky V. I'm not one of those people who hate Rocky V. In fact, I enjoy the movie. Is it flawed? Absolutely. Why would you trust Paulie with your money? Paulie's a fucking moron. You should have learned that by now, Rocky. But unfortunately, he trusted him. Of course, Paulie makes some bad investments and he has to go back to living in Philadelphia again. They're trying to recreate the whole plot of Rocky, even bring back the same director as the original. And it's got some flaws, but you know what? for all its cheese, I still really enjoy it. My ring's outside. I always will enjoy Rocky 5. It's not a great Rocky film, but it's still a very, very enjoyable one, and I enjoy it more than Rocky Balboa. Next up, Ocean's 12. So my wife and I watched Ocean's 11 and Ocean's 12 this month. And Ocean's 12, it didn't get the love when it first came out, mainly because it wasn't Ocean's 11. They weren't in Vegas, but Ocean's 12 is still a lot of fun. Yeah, you kind of got to look over the fact that they kind of had to justify getting the old band back together. And basically now Andy Garcia's character, even though he got his money from the insurance, he wants payback. He just feels ripped off. He doesn't like what George Clooney and the boys pulled on him, so he just wants his money back anyway with interest. And I just think the movie is, it's good. It's very good. I enjoy it. It's not a perfect film. It's not as good as Ocean's 11, obviously, but I still think it's a little bit underappreciated. Next up, The Great Silence. And I used to say this was one of my favorite spaghetti westerns. We got a great 4K Blu-ray release from Vinegar Syndrome, and I was just so happy to get this movie on 4K Blu-ray. It's a very underseen spaghetti western directed by Sergio Corbucci. He's not really as well known as Sergio Leone. He's more like on the B tier of the directors of the spaghetti westerns, but it's still a very good movie. Flawed, but a very good movie with a very, very dark ending. So next up, I got Muscle Shoals, and this was a recommendation from a coworker at my regular Joe job. Tom, I'm not going to use his last name on here, but I want to thank him for recommending this to me. It's about an Alabama music studio called Muscle Shoals. A lot of great artists recorded albums with this studio band. It's about the studio band, these guys who live down there, and they're just great musicians. They recorded albums for such artists as Lynyrd Skynyrd, Aretha Franklin. Like, so many great artists came through there. It's a very fascinating documentary. I enjoyed every minute of it. I had some questions about the editing. There was times where I feel like you get taken out of the story a little bit because we had to learn about some of the backing band members, but they always find their way back, and you're going to learn a lot about music that you probably didn't know before. And also, I found some songs that I had never heard before, so that's always a big win for me. So I just want to thank Tom for recommending this documentary to me. Next up, Rear Window. So if you are paying attention to what David and I, aka Shamrock Balls, are doing on the Let's Talk Movies podcast, we are going to be ranking our top 10 Alfred Hitchcock films, but we're picking from a pool of 20 movies that we're both going to rewatch. If I could get you guys the list if you haven't seen it, if you want to watch along with us. But I'm starting the watch process, and Rear Window was the first one I picked, mainly because my wife had never seen it before. And now, this was never really one of my maybe top 10 Alfred Hitchcock films. We'll have to wait and see how it all plays out. But I love the experiment of this. I love the set design because they built this all up, this entire backlot, the way they lit it, so it looks like the sun's going up and down. They really feel like they created this entire city, this entire block of people around here. We kind of build up the characters around a guy just kind of looking out. He's bored because his leg's broken and he's got nothing to do. So he starts peeping on his neighbors, and he notices maybe my neighbor killed someone. I'm not entirely too sure, but he gets his buddies in on it. He gets his girlfriend in on it. And, it's like asking the questions. If you're paying attention to what they're doing, is it good? Is it bad? Did he actually do it? I love this movie for that. But again, it's not necessarily one of my favorites, but I just appreciate it because of all the filmmaking prowess in there. Next up, I got The Stuff, another 4K Blu-ray I did on the channel this month, and this one was a very good film that I had never seen before from the 80s. It's a cheese fest through and through, but I love myself a good 80s cheese fest. This one's really commenting on consumerism, and the more junk food we eat, the worse we are off, and, that's something that's kind of still very relevant today. Like, if you look at foods we eat here in America, look at the ingredients compared to, the foods they eat in the UK, mainly, just even if it's from the same brand, we have so much preservatives, so much shit in there, and it's funny that we started to notice that in the 1980s. So I think this movie, while its commentary is very good, it's still a great 80s film that I can highly recommend. And the 4K Blu-ray is fantastic. There's even a new cut that was discovered in 2021 that you can actually check out with an alternate score on there as well. Arrow Video giving us the works. Next up, 1408. You can see the 4K Blu-ray right behind me. That was the first 4K Blu-ray review of 2026. It was a Lionsgate Steelbook release. I really enjoy that movie. I like to run back to it every few years. I just think it's a lot of fun. And you can kind of tell they had to really stretch that one out. But anytime John Cusack's in the room, and I'm not even a real big John Cusack fan, all that stuff works. Samuel Jackson, as always, is fantastic in the movie. I just think it's a lot of fun. Is it flawed? Sure, there's some flaws in there, but I still think it's a very enjoyable film. Next up, The Gambler, another Vinegar Syndrome 4K Blu-ray release that came out this year. And I hadn't bought any Vinegar Syndrome stuff in the last few years, and they came out strong this month. I reviewed The Great Silence, and I also reviewed The Gambler. This one came out from Cinematography, which is a Vinegar Syndrome partner label. I know I got that name wrong. And I think I said Cinematograph. I just read it quick. I'm an idiot. So, yeah, I think it's supposed to be pronounced Cinematography. That makes a lot more sense. And if it wasn't for this 4K Blu-ray, I wouldn't have even checked this film out. And it's one of James Caan's best performances. Paul Sorvino is in this movie as well. It really is just illustrating a huge gambling addiction. This guy, he keeps digging that hole and making it worse for himself, but that's what addicts do. It's a fantastic film, and I can highly recommend it. And that 4K Blu-ray is damn good. Next up, this was a channel bankroll member review for Mr. Smelly Potato, and he wanted me to watch Lady Snowblood, and you can clearly see that this one had a huge influence on Quentin Tarantino, and more specifically on the Kill Bill films, and of course on the bride herself. And I really enjoyed this movie. I really appreciate the recommendation for this. I can recommend it to you guys. I haven't seen the sequel yet, but there is a Criterion Blu-ray release that has both films on it, from what I understand, and what Mr. Smelly Potato told me, that it loses a little bit of the atmosphere when we go to the second film, which is understandable. But the atmosphere in the first one, also, it's a great winter film to watch. Next up, Gone Girl. My wife loves this movie. It's not one of my top 5 David Fincher films, but it's still a very good one, very enjoyable. I think it's aged like a fine wine. This one could be in worse hands. This ends up being a terrible adaptation of like an airport novel where it's like, you kind of watch it and forget about it. But David Fincher directed this one, so he's going to dot all his I's and cross all his T's. And Ben Affleck gives a great performance in this movie, and so does Rosamund Pike. Obviously, she kind of steals the show, but there's also some flaws. Like, I really do feel like Neil Patrick Harris is miscast in this movie. He should really stay in his lane. And honestly, it's been so many years, I don't think he's even really gone back and done dramatic performances. But he's good in this movie. But honestly, I would have recast him in my opinion. Still, Gone Girl is one I can always recommend. Next up, Arlington Road. And this is one that our channel producer, Ben Rondo, has been recommending to me forever. I had never seen this movie before. It stars Jeff Bridges and Tim Robbins. It's clearly commenting on a lot of the oversteps by the government, like mainly ATF and the FBI in the 1990s. Like, look at what happened in Waco, Texas, with the Branch Davidians. And then, of course, with Timothy McVeigh and the Oklahoma City bombings. It's commenting on all that. They have fictionalized versions of that in this movie. And it's also about just a creepy neighbor who might be setting you up for the worst. I think Jeff Bridges and Tim Robbins give great performances in this movie, as you would expect. I think this might be the first film that Jeff Bridges did after The Big Lebowski. So, kind of a 180. This guy's a lot sharper than that. Also, a man grieving, him and his son. They lost their wife and mother, respectively. And honestly, I did not expect the ending. I'm not going to spoil it in case you guys didn't see it, because, again, it took me 27 years to see this movie. And, that's way too long. It's a fantastic film. Definitely check this one out if you haven't seen it like I didn't, because this one is fantastic. Next up, Begonia. Now, I had this in my top 10 films of the year list. You can see where it ranks on this list. So, that's kind of how I feel about most modern films now. I guess I don't like them as much as the old stuff, because this is a very enjoyable film. Me and my wife watched it. She enjoyed it too. She really enjoyed like how the plot was going and like, the questions. She kind of figured it out pretty early, just like I did. I mean, I don't think it was as surprising as like many people might have made it out to be. But the performances are great. I really do feel like Jesse Plemons was the biggest Oscar snub of 2026. Like, he gives a phenomenal career-defining performance in this movie, and I don't know why he always gets overlooked. Now, Emma Stone is my favorite actress of all time. She's fantastic, but she's always fantastic. It just would have been cool to see somebody get the recognition they deserve that they never get, and I feel like Jesse Plemons got really overlooked in this movie. Next up, Total Recall. This one is directed by Paul Verhoeven. It stars Arnold Schwarzenegger. It's telling the story about a man who dreams of going to Mars, and he's always asking the question, is this all in his head? Did he get what he wanted from Recall, or is this really happening? Is he really this guy? Is he really Douglas Quaid, or is he Hauser? Who is he exactly? It's asking those questions. Now, in my opinion, we'll get into it. I'm doing a classic 4K Blu-ray review. That's why I watched this movie. We'll get more into the ending and my thoughts in that review if you want to check it out. But I've always really enjoyed this movie. It's one of my favorite Arnold Schwarzenegger movies. Yes, I love Arnold Schwarzenegger. And of course, he doesn't give the greatest acting performance, but he's still great because he's Arnold Schwarzenegger. He's got that confidence. He's got that bravado. He knows how to carry this movie. And of course, yeah, it's a little bit cheesy, and I love the movie for it. All the commentary that it has going on in this movie. Also, you get the great Michael Ironside in here, who's always been a very underrated actor, and he'll always be Sam Fisher to me. Next up, Mean Girls. Now, this is a movie that really grew on me thanks to my wife because this is one of her all-time favorite films. And when this movie came out, I guess it was just too young. I think I was 12 years old, and I was a boy, so I always just looked at this as a girl's film. But as I got older, I realized no, Mean Girls is a fantastic, entertaining as hell comedy that I can watch each and every single year. The main cast is fantastic. I love that Amanda Seyfried has just become one of our great actresses. She's just one of the players in this movie. Also, Rachel McAdams giving another fantastic performance as well. Amy Poehler. It's just a very funny movie. Tina Fey, Tim Meadows. I can go on and on. The jokes are fantastic. The movie's just very good. I could always recommend Mean Girls. The musical that came out a few years ago, that was all right. Next up, The Departed. Now, this isn't one of my favorite Martin Scorsese films, but it is a fantastic Martin Scorsese film filled with great performances. I believe Matt Damon gives his best performance of his entire career in this film. Now, Leonardo DiCaprio, he gives a pretty good performance. He just gets outshined by guys like Mark Wahlberg and Matt Damon, and even Jack Nicholson. Jack Nicholson is overacting his ass off in this movie, chewing scenery the entire time, obviously having a blast, and I think it works. I think his performance as Francis in this movie is fantastic. Martin Sheen is also really good in this movie. Everyone, Vera Farmiga has one of my favorite needle drops in film history with I'm Comfortably Numb playing over the sex scene between Leonardo DiCaprio and Vera Farmiga. I love that. Just a perfect needle drop. It works so freaking well. Oh man, I can go on and on about The Departed, but like I've said, maybe not my favorite Scorsese film, but it's Martin Scorsese, so a lot like Quentin Tarantino, it's still a great one. Next up, The Hateful Eight. So it's funny that I watched The Great Silence, which is a huge inspiration on The Hateful Eight. Just look at costume design and even props in the movie. There's even shots lifted right out of it because Quentin Tarantino loves to wear all his inspirations on his sleeve. But I think The Hateful Eight is a fantastic film any which way you spin it. I had a great experience when I first saw this movie. It was actually snowing outside, my first vacation from the last job I had. So I saw it, I had a Jeep, so I was able to get to the theater, watch it, and there was no one else in the theater. I think there might have been one old couple, but I was entranced with this movie, and I've enjoyed it every single time I've watched it since. I've never watched the Netflix version. I just always feel like it's a film, and I feel like I'm cheating on the film by watching it on Netflix. So I watched my Blu-ray, hoping for a 4K Blu-ray because this is, of course, a beautifully shot film. I think snow just lends itself so well when you're watching a movie, and then of course when it gets transferred to 4K, it's only going to look even better. Great performances from Samuel L. Jackson, Walter Goggins. This is kind of before he took off like a rocket ship like he has now. And then, of course, Kurt Russell also gives a good performance. Everyone gives a good performance in this movie. It's kind of like Clue in the Snow, like a Who Done It, which are just always fun movies. And I just always have enjoyed this one. It's maybe not one of Quentin Tarantino's best movies, but Quentin Tarantino, like I've said a million times, is my favorite director. And I think all of his movies are good. Next up, The Batman. So I rewatched this one. It kind of caught me on a day where I wasn't necessarily really in the mood to watch it, but this is one that my wife and I can really agree to watch, and I really enjoy it. I probably put this a little lower than I was expecting to. I didn't enjoy it as much as I had other times. Like I was in love with this movie the first time I saw it, but I think this is one where I'm getting a little bit burnt out on, and I've seen it too many times, and I need to probably give myself a few years off of it to then, appreciate it again. I do still feel like Michael Giacchino got ripped off for the score. He should have definitely at least been nominated for the Academy Award, but it didn't happen. It doesn't always happen. It doesn't always work out. Look at Challenges last year and look at Marty Supreme this year. That's my favorite score of 2025, and it didn't even get an Academy Award nomination. So they're really fucking up when it comes to the scores. So really bothers me. I mean, I get it. I'm a little bit of a shill for 1980s stuff, and they clearly were, and clearly Josh Safdie was inspired by stuff from the 1980s. Like, look at the opening credits to Marty Supreme. Like, if you're going to have sperm going into an egg and showing the entire thing, you lifted that from Look Who's Talking. You ain't fooling me. And clearly he loves 1980 stuff like I do because that score is inspired by the 1980s. And I loved it, but I can understand why not everyone else would. Next up, 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple. And I really enjoyed 28 Years Later from last year. And this was a great follow-up directed by Nia DaCosta. The last one was directed by Danny Boyle. Alex Garland wrote both of these movies. And, this movie fucking bombed at the box office. So now I'm really afraid we're not going to get the third movie. And they set up the third movie. It's not like at the end of the first one, the first 28 Years Later, where they set it up and it's pretty obvious, like it's kind of shoehorned in to set it up. It feels more natural in this movie, and a lot of stuff feels a little bit more natural in this movie compared to 28 years later. Like they set the camera down more. Like Nia DaCosta's doing something different while still feeling like it's a sequel to 28 years later. Obviously, because we have characters overlap. Like the Ray Fiennes character gets to get more screen time in this movie, and he gives one of the best performances as he always does. Ray Fiennes is one of our most underappreciated actor, the best actor I believe at the current time to not win an Academy Award. I think he's a little bit better of an actor than Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise never got the appreciation he deserves as well. I love the guy, but I do believe if we're going just acting, not action acting or anything like that, because obviously Tom Cruise is very important in that genre. I just feel like Ray Fiennes, he never got the true love he deserves. I mean, this guy has given it his all throughout his entire career, and he acts his ass off in this movie as well. Next up, 28 years later. I obviously had to rewatch that to go into 28 years later, The Bone Temple, and I go back and forth. They're really close. I think I'm going to give the slight edge to 28 years later, mainly because of the way they're dealing with grief and the one scene towards the end of the movie where one character passes away. In case you haven't seen it, I'm not going to spoil it here. That was devastating, and it broke me down when I saw it in theaters, and it broke me down on the rewatch. And I really give it the slight edge just for that one scene. Next up, House Party. This got a Criterion 4K Blu-ray release. My Blu-ray that was packed in there didn't work, but this was fun to revisit. This was a movie that was really important to my wife and I when this movie, not when it first came out, but when we first started dating in the early 2010s, and we watched all those movies and also watched Class Act. It was really fun to revisit it. On 4K, it looked absolutely beautiful. The movie itself is enjoyable as hell. I could always recommend House Party if you've never seen it. Next up, Misery. Now, this is one that David and I did on the Let's Talk Movies podcast. We gave it the full breakdown. The podcast is about 3.5 hours long. Go subscribe to that YouTube channel. Check that one out. I think you'll really enjoy it. Now, Misery, you can see we watched a lot of James Caan movies this month, and I just realized that James Caan is a very underappreciated actor. I didn't even appreciate him enough. Through the 1970s, he gives some career-defining performances. He had a little bit of a low through the 1980s. Then he comes back in 1990 with Misery. Then he pops up in so many other movies throughout the 1990s, such as Bulletproof. If you've never seen that, that's a recommendation for you. But he does a great job in this performance. He just gets outshined by Kathy Bates, who won an Academy Award. Well deserved, in my opinion, for this movie. It's a great Rob Reiner film. We lost Rob Reiner at the very end of 2025, and to revisit this film and just realize, this guy just went on a hell of a run, bouncing between so many different genres, and he directed the hell out of this Stephen King novel. And I can always recommend Misery. It also has a Kino Lorber 4K Blu-ray here in the United States if you want to check that out. Next up, Uncle Buck, and I love Uncle Buck. And I this was a movie, like, if you're having a bad day, this is one of the movies you could always put on, because John Candy, he's another one who entrances you. He gives a great performance as Uncle Buck, a little bit of a loser who needs to learn the error of his ways. That's why Amy Madigan is so pissed off with him. He's kind of a child at heart, but he goes in there and he has to, help take care of his brother's kids, because his brother's wife, her father had a heart attack, and the only person who can come in and take care of him, because he doesn't really have a job, is Uncle Buck. But he is so funny in this movie. You also get a great performance from Macaulay Culkin before Home Alone. Just show you the guy was just a great kid actor, wasn't he? Probably the best we ever had. I've never ranked him, but he probably was. But John Candy, this is a vehicle for him, and this is my second favorite John Hughes movie, right behind Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, just showing you how much of a fan of John Candy I am. Next up, Old School, another great comedy. This is one that I grew up with. I guess I didn't grow up with it because it came out, and I was already a little bit older. But, through my teen years, I always loved revisiting Old School. I could always put this movie on. It never gets old. It's one of those rare comedies that no matter when I watch it, I can quote it all the time. My cousin Matt, the fucking idiot that he is, the only thing he planned for my entire wedding, my best man, was to rip things off from the best man speech out of this. I saw that Frank's dad made it. I haven't seen him in a while. That's what Matt had planned for his entire best man speech for my wedding was, I see John's dad made it out. Haven't seen him in a while. That's all he had planned. But one of my favorite lines is Vince Vaughn early in the movie when he's trying to tell Will Ferrell not to get married, and then the second the bride's dad walks up, it takes a man to give away an angel. There's just so many quotable lines. Don't lose your composure. I just took the restricted plate out of the Red Dragon. Got to keep that at a download. Not exactly street legal. So absolutely hysterical. Never gets old, in my opinion. And then here's where Ocean's 11 falls. Like I said, I think Ocean's 11 still the best of the entire trilogy. It probably goes 11, 13, 12, but I haven't watched 13 yet in a while, so gonna have to go back to that and watch that one with the wife. I think Ocean's 13 is very good too, but Ocean's 11, the one that started it all in this trilogy of movies, it's a classic. It's a classic for a reason. You know, this is one that my stepdad and my mom really loved when I was younger, and I watched this movie a ton. But every time I run back to it, you know, it's a great caper. Everyone's entertaining. It's very lighthearted. The entire cast stacked from top to bottom. All the roles are filled by people. Even Don Shield doing an accent. But Brad Pitt, George Clooney, Bernie Mac is so good in this movie. I can go on and on about Ocean's 11 because it's one that, you know, this is one of those kinds of movies you can rewatch every year because it's just endlessly rewatchable, entertaining as hell. Julia Roberts is also fantastic. And next on the list, I got Ordinary People. Now, this was a channel director review for Stone Gas Man. I saw this movie only once in March 2021, and it didn't really make a big impression on me, but I watched it this time, and I haven't stopped thinking about it since I saw it. I don't know what was going on with me that day I watched it, which is why you should always rewatch movies. Sometimes you watch a movie on a bad day, and it just doesn't catch you the right way. Then you watch it at a different time, and the movie just hits you like a ton of bricks. And this one, it's an emotional roller coaster. I mean, Mary Tyler Moore, Donald Sutherland gives my favorite performance in the movie. Judd Hirsch is great. Timothy Hutton is great. Like, it's a fantastic film. You know, dealing with so many different issues, especially at the time, but issues that last the test of time, like grief. Anytime you lose somebody, you know how that affects a family. Like, that's stuff that we all can relate to, and I think that's what they're trying to show us. You know, this is an upper middle class family. I come from a blue collar family. That's clearly a white collar family, but we've all experienced these things because we're human beings. Mary Tyler Moore, who gives a career defining performance, despite the fact that she was like America's sweetheart at the time, in the Dick Van Dyke Show and the Mary Tyler Moore Show. You know, to play like this narcissist, this cold hearted woman who can't even love her own son, and for her to like commit to that and be able to pull it off, it's just absolutely incredible. And I can recommend Ordinary People. If you haven't seen it in a while or you've never seen it before, check it out. Just got a new Blu-ray release here in 2026. Next up, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, another one that my wife and I absolutely love. Fantastic film. I've always enjoyed this movie, but it's one that, again, you could just endlessly rewatch. Gene Wilder is great. The songs are great, and I'm not even a big musical guy. You know, the musical numbers are like, they kind of move the story along. It's very different from a regular musical where they're singing the whole time. That's the shit that drives me nuts. Now, like the songs like this, they're always very catchy. I want it now. Why, Violet? You're turning violet. No, stop, don't. Could just endlessly quote this movie. Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. It's a classic for a reason. Next up, One Battle After Another. Now, you'll see something here because I ranked my favorite films of 2025 on this channel earlier in the month, and at number one, I had One Battle After Another. Now, the movie I put at number two, which is a little higher on this list, that I watched that this month as well, and I wanted to do that, watch them in the same week and see how I felt about them, you know, watching them so close together. And I believe I got it wrong on my list. I had this at number one. I would put this at number two for me in 2025, while the other film, I would bump it up to 2021. Very disappointing 4K Blu-ray release from Warner Brothers with this one as well. I've talked a lot about One Battle After Another, so I won't really waste your time too much on this one. Next up, My Cousin Vinny. This is just an all-timer, right? Every time I rewatch this one, it's never boring. It's, again, just very quotable. If you've seen this one numerous times, you can always quote it. You know, I shot the clerk. You shot the clerk. I shot the clerk. And then everything Vinny says in this throughout this entire movie. My favorite is, of course, when Fred Gwynn holds him in contempt of court. He's like, geez, there's a fucking surprise. You know, because I personally said that as we're watching the movie. My wife is like, you're just like Vinny. You're stubborn. You're always wanting to argue. You can't be wrong. And I guess I kind of am. You know, maybe it's the New Yorker in me. I don't know. Like, we like to argue. We don't like to be wrong. And I can relate to that. You know, and this ridiculous suit I wore for you, Mr. Gambini. Are you mocking me? Mocking you? No, Judge. I'm not mocking. How do I know that's not a $20 bill wrapped around a lot of singles? It's not. I got the money. I'll go on and on. I'll just quote this movie all day. Mrs. Riley and only Mrs. Riley. Next up, Forrest Gump. Talking about movies that just always make me feel good. Anytime I was in a bad mood, I would just throw on Forrest Gump. And sure enough, I hadn't seen this movie in years. Made me feel fucking fantastic. I don't know what the hell happened with the internet where we decided as a group that Forrest Gump is a bad movie and shouldn't have won Best Picture in 1994. Now, my second favorite film of all time, Pulp Fiction, was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Picture, and it didn't win. I still think maybe Forrest Gump should have won because I do think that this is a bigger crowd pleaser. More people are going to like this movie. Tom Hanks gives a great performance. All the supporting actors, like Gary Sinise as Lieutenant Dan, give great performances as well. I'm not a smart man, but I know what love is. And then, of course, towards the end of the movie, when he's talking to Jenny's grave, like I didn't expect it. And then, of course, it made me cry like it does every single time because it's that kind of movie. It'll always get you. And then here's the movie I was talking about, Sinners. After rewatching this film, I realized this is the best film of 2025, and I should have had it that way originally. I don't know why I didn't. Just kind of comparing them, I probably saw one battle after another more recently, but watching them so close together, I do think that this is the movie that I think they'll both stand the test of time, but Sinners, I think, is a little bit more special. I think it's got a lot more to say about plenty of different things while also being a genre film. This is also a horror film. Michael B. Jordan gives a great performance. That's why he was nominated for an Academy Award. Delroy Lindo also nominated for an Academy Award. Well deserved. Took fucking long enough for them to nominate him for Academy Award. He gives another great performance, but he always gives great performance. It's nice to see. It's beautifully shot. It's Ryan Coogler's best film, in my opinion. The music is great. Like whether it be from Miles Caden as Simmy, or anytime that Jack O'Connell and the boys and girls are singing, like all that stuff, all the music great works. And Jack O'Connell, my God, I didn't talk about it when I just talked about 28 years later, the Broad Temple, but that guy can fucking act his ass off as well, right? And he's just great as a villain, isn't he? He's great in that, and he's incredible in this. He just wants Sammy. He wants that music. He's gonna do anything he can to get it, and you got to see this movie to believe it. If you haven't seen it yet, or you wrote this one off, what are you doing? Sinners is it's a masterpiece, I think. Next up, speaking of masterpieces, I have The Thing, and this is another one where I did a list here on the channel. And I ranked all the movies that you should watch in the winter and their physical media. I did that for our channel bankroll member, Mr. Smelly Potato, and I had The Thing at number one, and I had The Shining at number two. The Shining is a little bit higher on this list. We'll talk about it in a little while, but The Thing, I think I burnt myself out of The Thing because it didn't hit me like I wanted it to, like it always does. And I think watching it every year in the winter for probably like the last 20 years, I might have been a little burnt down. I might have to give myself a couple of years off because I'm sure you guys experience this as we get older. These years like tick by faster, and it doesn't feel like it's been that long since you watched it. And I think I need to give myself a little bit more time because I do think The Thing is a masterpiece. I think it's John Carpenter's best film. It just got into the National Library of Congress for being culturally significant, well deserved, just like The Truman Show, and I think The Incredibles as well. So plenty of classic films went in, and The Thing, it is a classic film. It's the best alien film of all time. Next up, Citizen Kane. I told you guys also on that very same list of top 10 movies to watch in the winter and their physical media that I always like to watch Citizen Kane, mainly when it snows out. Well, we got a really bad snowstorm here in New York and on Long Island, especially a couple of weeks ago. That snow's never going to melt. Maybe in March it'll melt because it's just going to keep snowing. But we got a bad one. And while it was snowing out, I really wanted to watch Citizen Kane, mainly because of the snow in the beginning. That's where, Kane is going to go. He's gonna go live with Thatcher in the big city. He's leaving his family, but that whole time it's snowing out, and we see that's where we get to see the sled, which might play importance if in case you've never seen Citizen Kane. Pay attention to that sled. He's out there playing with his sled. You can see him playing with his sled in the background while his family's talking with Thatcher, and that scene alone just makes me always want to watch that movie in the winter. But Citizen Kane, it's one of the rare movies that always gets praised as one of the greatest movies of all time. That I can honestly say it is one of the greatest films of all time. Like there's so many things, like just in the way that they make this movie, the way that the camera moves around, like really early in the movie, like the way the camera moves in from the outside to the inside, where we see Kane's ex, I guess it's not his widow because they had divorced, but like the last girl he was married to. What a fantastic transition. Like just the scope of this movie, like everything that Orson Welles was doing with this film at 25 years old. It's an epic. We're telling the story of this guy's life from his childhood to his death. It's structured in such a unique way. It's told non-linearly, like such a creative film that is an influence on so many other films and has literally stood the test of time. There's not many movies better. I understand why this movie always gets ranked up there as either 1, 2 of the greatest films of all time or one of the greatest American films of all time. It's well deserved. It's just that damn good. Next up, I got Malcolm X, directed by Spike Lee. I've told you guys, this is my favorite biographical film of all time. It stars Denzel Washington as Malcolm X. It's directed by Spike Lee. It's a Spike Lee joint. Wasn't supposed to be the original director. I decided to throw in that Criterion 4K Blu-ray, and sure enough, The movie is still great. Denzel Washington didn't win the Academy Award for this performance, which is incredible because it is one of his best performances of his entire life. I think it's better than his Training Day performance. It is his best performance, and it's a shame because he blends so well into this character, a character that they don't shy away from nothing when it comes to it, and that's why you have Spike Lee direct this movie. Ernest Dickerson shot the fuck out of this movie. He also directed Juice in the same year, and he gives just he does an amazing job. Like, for me, it just checks so many different boxes. It never gets old. It's such a long film, but you don't ever feel it. If you've never seen Malcolm X, you've done yourself a disservice. Check it out any which way you can. And at number 2, I got The Shining. Like I said, I had this at number 2 on the top 10 movies to watch in the winter in their physical media list. You can see it right behind me. The 4K Blu-ray still holds up. I did a classic 4K Blu-ray review for it. And yeah, watching it this time around, I enjoyed it more than I enjoyed The Thing. Of course, I love Jack Nicholson. I love Stanley Kubrick. I love how this movie was shot. Shelley Duvall, of course, is fantastic in this movie. We don't really like what Stanley Kubrick did to her to get that performance, but it's still an amazing performance. I love the work with the steady cam, like just simple shots are just so good in this movie. So I can always recommend The Shining. If this is, I understand not everyone loves this movie. I got some comments on my video about that, and listen, I respect that. My buddy David, aka Shamrock Balls, he's told me himself he thinks it's a little bit overrated. Stephen King himself doesn't like this movie, but you know who does love this movie? This guy right here. And that means we're going to number 1, which was the first movie I watched in 2026, and that's The Godfather, which, yeah, it's The Godfather. This is a masterpiece, a 5-star film. I said it's not my favorite gangster film of all time. I always give that edge to Goodfellas, and I'm just a big Goodfellas guy. I think that's also a masterpiece directed by Martin Scorsese. But Francis Ford Coppola did an amazing job on this. David, aka Shamrock Balls, and we broke this down on the Axis Cinema Appreciation podcast over on the Let's Talk Movies podcast YouTube channel. The first one we ever did on that, which is a little bit of a shorter show, a little bit more of a conversation show. And we thought The Godfather, one of the greatest films of all time, was the perfect show to open that one up. And you know what? In my opinion, it's still a great film. I can always rewatch The Godfather. I think it's better than The Godfather Part 2. But of course, you have to watch The Godfather and then watch The Godfather Part 2. But sometimes I take The Godfather Part 2 off. That's why I haven't watched it yet this year. I think it's an off year for that. The Godfather, on the other hand, there's a reason why another one like Citizen Kane always gets put near the top of the greatest films ever made list. And it's just one of those movies. Like, it's got funny moments in there. It's an epic. I mean, the performances, like, it's really insane to me still to this day that Al Pacino did not win the Academy Award for this or The Godfather Part 2. We had to make it up to him for Scent of a Woman, which is not one of my favorites Al Pacino performances, but hey, it happens. We gave it to Marlon Brando, though, even though he didn't even show up at the Academy Awards. And yeah, everyone's great in this movie. James Caan, Robert Duvall. I mean, he's as Tom Hagen. He's so good. It's a shame he didn't come back for The Godfather Part 3. I don't blame him, but it's a shame. So that's my ranking for all the movies that I saw in the month of January from worst to first. Let me know what your favorite movies were in January of 2026. Leave those in the comment section below. And while you guys are down there, don't forget to hit the like button, hit that subscribe button, share this video if you could. We also have channel memberships, guys. So if you want to become a friend of the channel, a producer for the channel like John Doe Juggalo, Ben Rondo, and Harvey Scott, you can do that. Or you can become a channel director like Nicholas Head, Uncle V, Frank from Frank's Media and Reviews, and Stone Gasman, or bump it up to the channel bankroll members like Mr. Smelly Potato. But of course, guys, if you have no money to throw my way, don't you worry about it at all. I just hope you guys enjoyed this video. And guys, like I said, the Let's Talk Movies podcast is over on its own YouTube channel now. I would really appreciate it, and David and I would both really appreciate it if you went over there, gave that one a subscribe. I think you guys will enjoy it. Of course, if you don't, that's no problem at all. It's no pressure at all. I never want to put pressure on you guys. So that's going to do it here for me. If you enjoyed this video, please tell your friends about it, and then I'll be seeing you around.